This video is brought to you by Audible. Audible, page-turning literature made available for life on the go. Use the link provided for a free trial. It helps us keep the show going.
I don't get this.
Beginning with Samurai Sentai Shinkenger, and with exception to Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger,
The why they skipped doing one for Gokaiger never ceases to baffle me, since they had the perfect setup for several and Gokaiger was a gigantic cash cow.
Toei began commissioning post-series film events to quote-unquote conclude or give an epilogue story to a given Sentai where they unite for one last hurrah. I'm not entirely certain why they started to do this initially, since they started doing them before Kamen likewise had their post-series V-cinemas, since the Versus movies by this point had served that role for Sentai for over a decade, and often at the time still did serve as a better epilogue than what was given in these V-cinema events.
The likely most prominent reason tied to this is the airing schedules for Toei shows have been repeatedly dialed back from a full 50 to 52 episode season to, what are we down now to, 45 at the shortest? This has been due to shifts in scheduling to differing beginning and ending air dates, financial difficulties relating to even perpetuating the genre, ergo why many of these toys are so toyetic now, is need to even get them the funding to be made despite not originally being nor primarily made as toy line vehicles, or, more commonly, the superhero time programming block on TV Asahi where Super Sentai and Kamen are broadcast, having been preempted so they could air golf tournaments.
Additionally, since they had been seeing diminishing returns on this for some time, Toei also decided to begin cutting the post-Christmas episode of any given series from air, and just skipping a week there as well. Since generally with everyone on holiday, the post-Christmas pre-January time slot would see horrific viewership across the board. So instead of just doing a bare-bones clip show recap before entering the final stretch of the show, they just delay that clip show a week when everyone didn't have holiday stuff going on.
So in reality, these movies seem to be taking advantage of budgets allocated to the series for 2 or 3 more episodes by given runtime, and just shoving into an additional expense for viewers and revenue source for them, as fans would then need to buy a ridiculously overpriced DVD or Blu-ray to see it. Marketing!
I'd honestly say this has done more harm than good, as unlike the Kamen Rider post-series V-cinemas, the grand majority of the returns films for Sentai have been outright unrepentant garbage. Not helped that with most of the budgets of a given series spent on more essential things,
such as the final battle we just had,
that either their lack of a budget is plainly obvious with how much previously created assets are recycled and everything is done as cheaply as can be, or it's a clear sign of where funds that should have gone into the show had been sent.
I seriously have not liked any of the Sentai Returns V-cinemas. I'm most forgiving of Shinkengers, as it was an experimental thing, and Kyouryugers would be alright if it wasn't following on the heels of what was just an awful final arc. But I really feel the money that has gone into making them should really be more focused on making the show that is broadcast on a weekly basis better, as that would result in more revenue for them than a cheapskated last hurrah cash grab that wouldn't bring in the money they want if the show sucked in the first place, and they're now making them twice over when you then count the Versus films that are made after these. Not like any Versus film has been good since Gokaiger vs. Gavon, as meddling coming from the higher echelons like Shinichiro Shirakura keeps fucking them up, but my point still stands.
In this case, however, since KyouRyuger has explored some of Riku Sanjou's recurring themes of legacy, that proposes an interesting question. What would the next generation of KyouRyugers be like?
Unfortunately, it wastes an hour trying to show that. And yet it's still not the worst thing related to this series.
In the not-too-distant future,
somewhere in time and space,
we are introduced to the Japan of 2114.
100年経ってもそんなに世の中変わってなかったね
Thus making this one of the most accurate depictions of the future ever.
But evil still lurks, the 4 seasonal D-Boss monsters having been reborn, or recreated, as alternative proxies.
Okay, to be fair, this special had near no budget, so suit recycling is expected. Even though because of the conclusions of the KyouRyuger story, that makes no damn sense.
But as always, when evil stirs, heroes will rise.
その銃はまさか伝説の恐竜じゃ
お前たちの勝手にはさせないぞ。みんな必死だ。喋った。
恐竜チャージ。
Have you not practiced at all? I mean, I fail at the dance, but you shouldn't be. Heh, kids these days.
Now, behold, the only canon appearance of Kyoryu Navy, who is revealed to be a complete wimp. None of this group showing themselves as any good at this.
俺たち伝説の勇者だよな。
違うだろお前ら。
Oh, inform us, oh twice beaten once.
全体的にだ。
I feel like this was preempted criticism for Neo Saban's adaptation of this series.
それなのになぜこんな地味で寒々しい色ばかりなんだいった。
And also this being Riku Sanjou taking revenge over the whole Kyoryu Yellow debacle.
だいたい一つの戦隊に紺と青と水色と紫がいるなんてありえないでしょ。青系多すぎ。
俺たちの方がよっぽど派手ですもんな。
その上銀と灰色もかぶってるし。
I could just keep playing this scene. These are seriously my complaints.
Hell, the monsters do a roll call based around the seasons better.
あんな地味ヒーロー敵じゃないです。
And they aren't, because here's where they screwed up with his entire V cinema. None of these inheritors earned their powers like the originals did through tests of strength or character.
As is revealed later, Canderilla just summoned up these 6 descendants of the original team and tossed them the only 6 batteries they'd found. As KyouRyuger as a series was always about earning and growth for the cast and their abilities, this V-Cinema reflects that in a team that has not earned the right to their powers, being completely and utterly pathetic.
Unfortunately, that is not at all the rationale for why they suck at this as it should have been. Oh no.
The actual reason, as is revealed over the movie, is Canderilla gave the team the wrong batteries, that their ancestry makes them innately aligned to one of the Zyuden Ryu, and only Nobuharu's descendant, Nobuta, got one that matched that at all.
Which is entirely bullshit and already been contradicted within the series with how Cyan, Gray, and Silver's powers were passed down to individuals with little commonality to their previous bearers. Admittedly, Gray II was a descendant, but it wasn't the fact that he was a descendant that made him be chosen for that power set.
And again, as was my complaint with KyouRyuger vs. Go-Busters, it makes this all a matter of predetermined fate. A chosen one narrative based around the pedigree of their blood, which would force them to align to their ancestors' power, which would make them all super special awesome. Again, in defiance with how the previous team gained theirs and grew over time, and completely conflict with how this group of future descendants are nothing at all like their ancestors. Uppi's not a samurai, he's a professional bowler. Ichan's a musician, not a treasure sniper. And Daikun and Amy II are siblings and neither are skilled fighters. The closest you could get to a realigning with the heritage passed down is Soijiro, and that's simply because Soji is still alive. And has trained his grandson as a swordsman. But it doesn't make sense for them to be forced into a mold they in no way match, like this storyline for them makes them as they are entirely different people.
I would rather have seen this all be about this blue-shaded team earning and learning the strengths of the power set they were given in the same way their ancestors did with theirs. Anything else undermines the prior work and what it showcased entirely. How does Riku Sanjou end up doing that with post-series content for his shows? I have far higher expectations for him concerning this stuff. Hell, even the Kamen Rider Double Futo Detectives manga that started releasing since I did the double reviews seems as if it suffered from a character reset for the cast instead of it truly continuing on from where the series ended, even though it is set after the series ended.
Oh, but these guys aren't the only fresh revivals. These 6 also being confronted by a revived Aigaron, named Hoshigaron, Dogold, reborn as Suneld.
Oh dear god, those eyebrows. Those could give Heihachi Mishima a run for his money.
Where are my eyebrows?
And the 1000-faced Gauss.
洗面痛と顔を洗う？
おおそうこの鼻筋のあたりは特に汚れるからなその洗面ではないいやいやテンション低いノリツッコミだな
I think I can throw Chaos's own words back in his face with this.
どうして部下はこんな奴らばかりなんだなんという悲劇を
And yeah, these three are complete doofuses, which, as I have said time and again about villains who act like this, unless they're the minority comedic foil contrasting more serious main antagonists like, say, Rito Revolto to the more domineering Lord Zed, it entirely undermines the menace and threat of these individuals for them to act like this primarily, as you can't take them seriously, nor think them actually capable of achieving their goals, which just makes the heroes look even worse. One, where they can't even beat someone this inept, or two, does not show them as actually being strong to beat someone openly incompetent. These are sins KyouRyuger avoided that are embraced to ruin series past this, and yet this V-Cinema embraces them entirely.
The only one that isn't asinine is the new man on the block, remorseful knight Arslavan, who seems to be more of a leader than Gauss, with their plan being to use their D-Boss cells and new emotions of humanity in an attempt to resurrect D-Boss. And as the 2114 KyouRyuger are pathetic, they actually have a chance of succeeding. Bragagus rescues the six and drags them back into the spirit base, where they are met by Canderilla and Luckyru, who've in the last 100 years moved into the spirit base and tried to be Taurine's successors as the Kyoryu spirit's wise priest.
Unfortunately, the pair show no sign of having gained any experiences or wisdom over the last 100 years, which they should have, and act no differently than they did early in the show.
This reflected in how they did pretty much just recruit these six at random simply for looking like the original team when they felt D-Boss's power re-emerge.
やっぱ適当な充電池で変身すりゃいいってもんじゃなかったみたいっすね。
No, really?
変人って賢い神ってことでしょ。どう見ても賢く見えないんだけどあの人。
Hey, in your defense, at least you're making an honest effort at trying candy, so keep smiling, as you're still doing a better job as a mentor than Mentor G, fucking Gosei, or even Dino Charge's Keeper.
The reason why they've even had them use random batteries is they lost all the others amongst all the junk they've accumulated, and they haven't had the time to find them as this was the team's first deployment period.
Forgetting entirely that the way the batteries work is they need to channel their bravery to even get them to trigger, alongside them having established a bond with the relevant Zyuden Ryu, for the Dino Spirit to even enter the battery to power it. How do they even transform in the first place if they in no way have established a bond with the related Zyuden Ryu? This is once again in direct contradiction with the main series.
So Jiro's the first to quit, never wanted to be anything like his grandfather in the first place. The rest bar Nobuto and Amy pretty much doing the same, which just further shows how unlikable these guys are. Daigun especially, with how Amy critiqued his conduct for being a cowardly, pitying sad sack. A boy that only sees failures and in no way wants to ever better himself. Just blame everything else for why he sucks, and can't live up to their ancestors.
You use pity to lure in your victims. It's how you survive. I survive because I know everything. That snake survives because children wander off, and you survive because people think, oh, this poor piece of shit, he never gets a break. I can't stand the deafening silent wails of his wilting soul.
However, Dai finds he's being followed by a white Munitira. We see Gauss and his subordinates planning their next attack, as Upi is shown practicing his bowling.
Resurgence? It never left. I am not a sports person, and I freaking love bowling. Though arguably this may once more be an example of me having weird tastes. But this at least gives some downtime with these future versions of the cast to show at least 3 of them are already friends, admitting they all did feel something from transforming, harkening back to the melody of the earth, which begins to affect all of them, as Soji comes in and berates a lot of them for giving up so easily.
でもミたち変身しても強くならないんだよねその答えが欲しけば
That is amazingly unhelpful advice.
Still, this new era isn't all bad. Lucky we're seeing an advertisement for the newest revival of Love Touch.
またリメイクすんの7回目だよ。絶対無印を超えられないんだからやめときゃいいのに。
Then why does Toei keep trying to make fucking reboots?
But she ends up in a trap by Neo D-Boss to get rid of their traitors, which Kyouryuger senses, realizing this is beyond her.
私ダメダメだわ。
But Torian's spirit intervenes in all of this, reassuring Kyouryuger that she just needs to keep trying, and assisting Dai when he's attacked by Arslan, who is additionally berated by Minitira.
彼は君のだらしなさに怒っているのだ。
Minitira is of course the clue to Dai's true color, which he can't see, simply because he's an inept, gutless coward.
戦うんだ。自分の弱さと。
And frankly, I was so irritated with Dai over this that I kept wanting to smack him.
But this is where the reassertion of their true colors nonsense begins. Ichan's musical composure suddenly infested with references to Parasagun, Upi suddenly inexplicably drawn to the color gold, and Soichiro realizing it's in a training match where Soji passes him the feather edge. Oh, and yeah, for more shipping confirmation, Soji ends up marrying Rin.
I didn't like the handling of these discover their true power scenes either, as it feels as if these three were indoctrinated after hearing the notes of the earth into these rules without it's against type and invasive to their normal actions. Again, you are not your ancestors. There's no need to abide by what they did and how they acted if it doesn't reflect who you are. Powers like this shouldn't be ascribed to a heritage, but a personality.
Still, with Kyouryuger having found the batteries, hidden behind the photograph of the team, she can properly empower the members as they go to save Lucky Roo. Patera Gordon sending Upi his Gaburi changer, and Amy also having her epiphany simply by the rationale that she likes pink more than blue.
That is a really stupid reason for wanting to switch colors. You seriously put zero effort into that. What the hell?
And since Nabuto is already properly attuned to the powers of Sagochi, that just leaves the inept Dai, who does nothing as everyone else falls into a trap, even though that is his fucking sister in danger. However, this is where Arslan springs his real plan, betraying the other Neo D-Boss members to take all the power they've gathered for himself in order to open up a portal in time.
Okay, Toei, we need to talk. You used to do the silly time travel plot as a throwaway story every few years. It was dumb, but harmless with how you handled them, as more making them the effects of elaborately crafted magic or technology. Then Time Ranger happened, and while it was not a financial success, no one understands why, ever since, dumb time travel stories that harm the development of more interesting plot have infested your series with how easy it has now become to time travel throughout your franchises. Any burst of energy now can throw open tears in time. And time travel, as a story device, should neither be that easy nor used so flippantly, as it wastes the potential of what an adventure through time can give, and the impact it can have to the future or one's personal history, which you have screwed up so many fucking times in the last 10 years by not understanding the fundamental means by which to tell a story with that plot device. I really like time travel fiction and get irritated at its abuses.
And this is certainly an example of that, as the "we traveled back in time" portion of this movie, it lasts all of 5 minutes. Dai inexplicably diving in after Arslan. And why is Arslan doing this? It was apparently a final D-Boss general created upon D-Boss's death, embodying its regret, gathering its remnant power to bring revenge, and these twisted clones all made to get the energy to change time so D-Boss would win in the past. But because Dai screams out in this portal between times, the 2014 KyouRyuger somehow hear him,
Even though, since he's traveling to the past, those cries would not be heard by the KyouRyuger at any point in their timeline, where they would then be able to counter what's happening when they eventually are let out of it, as those cries wouldn't travel to a point before their arrival.
And thus, they're all already there to counter and beat down Arslavon.
Which is also dumb, as if his plan ever succeeded and changed the future, then he would have never been created to travel back in time and change the timeline, and Arslavon's entire plan then hinges on him being Paradox Boy.
But said inexplicable cries have also allowed them to develop the SP Beast Battery made from the spirits of the Core 6 Kyouryuger in order to close this time loop. They give it to Dai, and throw both him and Arslavon back to the future.
I hope not, as the future is dumb.
But from this, Dai finally discovers his color, and to my utter frustration of him not having earned it, goes Kyoryu Red Carnival, and the six use their ancestors' spirits to end Arslavon. In 2014, the current Kyoryuger note they didn't need to worry too much about the future, since they had people traveling back from it, so just need to keep doing what they've been doing. Though Yayoi is disappointed, she didn't get to interrogate him on who Daigo's eventual baby mama would end up being from his grandkid.
And that's not a logical paradox, as this event is before D-Boss's revival, so Amy hasn't asked him out yet.
All while Rin comes for Soji, revealing he had forgotten a date with her. All while to end this, 2014 shows the Neo D-Boss members aren't quite dead yet, thus the team still has some adventures to go on in their time. None of which will ever be shown despite Korea deciding to fund their own 12-episode extension to the series.
Kind of glad though, as this movie is not good at all.
Okay, look, of the three stories that depict people other than the original Kyoryuger in the Kyoryuger suits, this is the most harmless one of them. But much like I said about the Double Returns films, it's completely superfluous fluff. The dumbness of the villains contrasts poorly against the otherwise intelligent antagonist Kyoryuger had, and while there's some decent material surrounding Canderilla struggling to be a good mentor and following Torine's footsteps, I just really don't like any of the future Kyoryuger, nor the connotations that they were driven and forced into a true power set like this after hearing the Earth's melody. Hate to cross the media streams, but that really reads badly against the sour note indoctrination seen of the Mass Effect series concerning subliminal frequencies affecting how people think, which I kind of saw the resultant about faces of their color choices as more than them discovering some form of unknown truth about themselves. The pointless time travel nonsense here also did not win any favors with me, since I'm a fan of good uses of that plot device, and I'm irritated by its senseless inclusion, as Toei's overdone that a lot in recent years to horrific effect when they didn't need to use it at all.
But at the very least, since this story affects nothing and barely ties in the story of the main Kyouryuger beyond the legacy connection, it's an easy skip unlike some of the other V cinemas where they are more direct continuations. But that's not so for the final bit of Kyouryuger-related material I have to cover before discussing Dino Charge. And as such, put on your railway caps, as next time we have to talk about the train brats in ToQger vs. Kyouryuger. I did this to myself.